Welcome to another edition of In the Weeds with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful, award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, good times, great rewards. We're going to continue to look at the guys that the Sooners have landed in the transfer portal and taking another look at a tight end. Ted, this is Pittsburgh State. That's right, Pitt State, the Fighting Gorillas. Transfer Will Huggins. He's a sixth-year player. He played 4 years at Kansas, did not get on the field much for the Jayhawks, so transferred to Pitt State, had 22 catches for 395 yards and a touchdown. But the one thing you look at, 6'7", 254 pounds, okay.
Yeah, the big body for sure. And, it's one thing is we haven't had overwhelming size at the position in a while. So that's one of the things that he definitely brings is he's going to be the biggest tight end that we have, at least height wise, by a decent little stretch.
Here is Will Huggins right here in this wing position. So we always want to know, hey, this guy, how does he move? Right? He's a tight end. What type of player is he? How does he move? And this is just, I mean, it's just bad coverage from Fort Hayes here. Let's be real. He's wide open. He's uncovered, but catches, gets north and south. And Ted, the big fella can, I mean, he doesn't look like a lumbering 6'7", 254.
That's the perfect word. That's what I was going to say. He catches it, gets upfield, has some decent turnover, looks pretty athletic.
That is when you look at the production, you see a guy move like this, and it's very similar to what we said about Carson Kent. Why did they not get him the ball more?
Yeah.
If he's that size, moves that well, I think that checks a box when you're talking about, does he have the necessary athleticism to play the position and have somewhat of an impact? You never know how big of an impact, right? Because it's a big jump between the competition he was playing at Pitt State and what he's going to be seeing in the SEC. But he doesn't look like a complete slappy.
And you can look really bad at 6'7". It doesn't take much at all to look very unathletic being that tall.
That's true. That's true. And he's certainly not a burner, but he doesn't look like he's super slow. Here's another snap of Huggins going out on a pass route, just running a speed out here. You can see him 87 right here in the wing position again. And once again, I know the production is what it is. I know the level of competition is what it is, but I mean, looking pretty smooth, pretty natural running the speed out here. Ted, nice catch, knows exactly where the sideline is, gets his head around, ready for the pass, hauls it in. That's a
That's hard to
nice,
cover.
nice productive play.
It's hard to cover a speed out. I mean, no matter how fast he is, most likely going to be covered by a backer there or a safety. It's just hard to cover a guy that's 6'7" on a quick throw like that near the sideline. He's a big target there, has a massive catch radius just because of the height. So yeah, I mean, again, it looks like a guy that can, have a chance to maybe earn a spot on the roster for sure.
He, in these first two clips, in seventh grade football, and I was this kid, the kid that goes through puberty before all the other kids.
Yep.
That's kind of what he looks like in these first two clips against this competition that Pitt State was playing. Just looks massive and out of place.
I mean, his hip at that poor defensive back is like in the middle of his chest.
But he looks like a smooth athlete.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's the
agree.
best way to put it, especially if the measurables are accurate, which I have no reason to believe that they're not. I think for 6'7" and over 250 pounds, he moves pretty well. Here is it. I think this is our first from the field, from the sideline
Yeah,
angle play on in the weeds history. But here you can see Huggins. He's number three in this 3-by-1 formation, right? He's in the inside position in this trip set, and this is, I believe, this is his one touchdown. His only touchdown of the season for Pitt State. And when you see how smooth this out route looks, you're gonna go, why did they not throw it to him more in this area of the field? I mean, Ted, he's just winning with speed, 1-on-1 against the safety, and then makes a very nice, has to extend the arms, tracking the ball well, gets the foot in.
yep. And
Once
again,
again, at that size, it
those
doesn't
those,
look awful, man.
those outbreaking routes for a guy of that size near the sideline, where you don't have to have very much separation at all with the cover guy. Just have to have him in your hip pocket a little bit, and you give the quarterback, what's typically a tight throw, a guy of that size gives him a lot more room to play around with that football and still be able to make a play on the sideline. That's pretty nice.
This is the closest In the Weeds has ever been to being like the Blair Witch Project. The shaky camera. Hopefully you guys watch it. It doesn't bother you. I'll slow mo it so it's a little less shaky. But that's a nice play. And you think about red zone targets. If you have a guy that's 6'7" and 255 and can run routes like that and make catches like that, you have to believe that he can at the very least help you in the red zone.
Yeah, yeah. Again, man, he. I don't. Does he look like a starter? No. Does he look like a guy that's a world beater in the SEC? No. But he does. Does he look like a guy that can add depth to the position and give you something a little unique that everyone else in that room doesn't provide with his height? Yeah.
At this point, man, are we sure he doesn't look like a starter for the tight end group?
Well, he may look like one because of the size, but I'm
I
with you. I mean, at this point, I think everyone is in the fight for a starting position right now, aren't they? I mean, no one's penciled in. I can't imagine at this point.
It is an unproven room,
That's right.
the entire room. So I have no idea if Will Huggins is going to be a big part of what Oklahoma does in the 2025 season, but just looking at the way he moves and what he looks like running some of these routes, decent, right? I
Yeah,
think that's the assessment. Hey, decent, especially when you consider the size at 6'7", 255.
we're 2 for 2 on better than I thought.
Now we're also looking at their highlights. I get
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
And shout out to Will Huggins for putting out a highlight film so I didn't have to go through Pitt State's stuff on YouTube and make it myself. I appreciate that, big fella. That's one part of playing the position of tight end. Let's take a look at if he can block at all or not. But first,
You listen to this podcast to get insight from the guys who played the game. Why don't you take that same approach when it comes to buying your beef? When you order from Didier Ranch, you are getting your beef directly from the people who raise it. A rancher knows what it takes to have a premium quality beef. Didier Ranch has done it for over 100 years right here in Oklahoma. From delicious 21-day dry-aged ribeyes to savory steak burgers, there's no better place to get your beef. Get your beef from the guys who've done it and use code Oklahoma15 for 15% off on DidierRanch.com. Didier Ranch, tradition tastes better.
so on this snap, you're just going to see Will Huggins kind of working through some of the trash on a zone insert concept. So he's got this backside linebacker right here. That's his job on this play. And let's just take a look. Let's take a look at how's his feel look. That guy, hey, that backer's coming downhill and playing some ball, Ted.
Yes, he is.
Bam. But I would say Huggins in some of those situations, is it ideal? Would you say, yeah, get low, use your hands? Listen, a collision like this, you got to throw shoulders. If you're just being real, if you're being realistic, using your shoulders, some of the best fullbacks you've ever seen, whether that's college or NFL, that's they're tremendous at blocking with their shoulder, using that flipper in these situations. And this is not, I mean, it's not devastating, Ted, but I like the finish. He kind of stalemates him when the guy's flying downhill trying to make the play. Once again, not terrible, not terrible. And this is the type of stuff I would assume Ben Arbuckle's going to ask Will Huggins to do is, hey, you're going back, blocking the in man on split zone, a little zone insert stuff. Maybe you're trying to dent the edge, running the stretch play. Like those are some pretty common concepts in what Arbuckle did at Washington State.
Yeah. And, I would imagine that, being able to run routes, catch the football, work the sideline, use his height in the passing game are going to come a lot easier than this stuff. This is probably where he's going to need the most work, blocking the big physical defensive ends, blocking some of the big downhill linebackers that we see in this conference. This is where he's probably going to need the most work, the most development, but he's got a base to work from.
Yeah, and this is something that we actually saw Bauer Sharp, like this was his best play
Yeah.
throughout the season as a run blocker. And I'm interested to see how big of a part of Ben Arbuckle's offense zone insert is. He runs a lot more zone than what we've seen from OU over these last couple of years, or at least what I consider traditional zone blocking. So it'll be interesting to see if any tight end for the Sooners is asked to do a lot of this right here. But I think he shows the ability to kind of work through the trash here, find his assignment, and nice collision, stalemates him, finishes with good effort. So
Yeah.
is it awe-inspiring? No, but it's something where you go, okay, this guy, he can get the job done. Here's an interesting situation. And here's Huggins right here, inline tight end. You look at the situation, 4th and 1, big play in the football game. Obviously, what a terrible circle I just drew. And it is, I just wanted to see, okay, in a gotta have it situation, how does he come off the football as an inline tight end? And really
Pretty good.
comes off the rock, man. Now,
Yeah.
he eventually loses the battle, but this is a 4th and 1 situation.
Just
I
need a
would
surge.
consider that a win in a 4th and 1 situation, but his feet get a little narrow, he loses his base, gets thrown to the side. Like that's not ideal. He's also working a double team with that other tight end fullback body there that's just off his hip. And neither of them do a tremendous job, I would say. But it is I like the way he's coming off the rock. I like the pad level. Remember, 6'7", his helmet right at the level, if not below his defender. So when you think about a tall guy coming out of a stance, that's not terrible. I like the aggression in the situation, but there's just no doubt this is the piece of Will Huggins' game that is going to need to improve. He's
Yep.
going to have to become a better point of attack blocker.
Yep. And this guy right here is going to be a giant in this conference. I mean, that in this position, that's going to be a hand down, 280-pound defensive end, maybe bigger. And this is going to be, again, where we're like, again, running the routes, that stuff, and some of the movement things. He's looked good. It's going to be hard to know what we really have as a blocker until we see him against some of those guys. And this spring is going to be a good testing ground for that because we're going to have a really good, solid defense, and there'll be some nice opportunities for battles on the line of scrimmage.
We're going to take one more look at just a couple of things that Huggins did at Pitt State. And it's something that you and I talked about quite a bit during the season with the tight end group, more specifically Bauer Sharp. You have to know when it's time for a kill shot and when it's not. And to Huggins' credit here, and this is a play that Ben Arbuckle runs quite a bit. I call it motion in split zone. So you're motioning in the guy that is going to be the split zone guy. That guy is blocking the end man on the line of scrimmage. And he just goes, all right, I'm going to try to kill this guy. And to his credit on this one, he absolutely catches him, Ted. But this is not going to work in the SEC.
No.
You have to be more controlled. You have to
Square.
be, you have to be more balanced as a blocker. I love the attitude. I love the aggressiveness. It's clear on this clip, Huggins ain't afraid of contact. I know that. But this was just one. It made me giggle seeing it because we saw Bauer Sharp struggle in that situation many, many times throughout the 2024 season. But to Huggins' credit on this one, man, he gets him.
That is great. And he is going full speed whenever he comes into the screen here. This is pretty funny. Yeah, that, see how he turns that shoulder right there. Like, that's one of those where you're going to have to, this is the ugly side of tight end. You're going to have to stay square and face up that guy right there. And again, in the SEC, that's going to be a big physical dude that you're going to be in there trying to dig out in that split zone. But you're right. I love the willingness for contact.
And one more clip of showing that willingness for contact with Huggins. He's motioning out. They're just throwing a quick on the outside, and he is, once again, to his credit, he's not afraid to go get a piece. It's going to need to be more controlled and more technically sound against SEC defenders, but it is proven he will go lay it on the line, and if it is necessary in some of these concepts. And this is something that Arbuckle runs, right? Yeah. There's a lot of the RPO stuff with Arbuckle. He just wants to test the numbers on the outside, throw some quicks, and see if an opposing defensive backs can hold up to the physicality of the blocking on the outside. And once again, just going and just knocking a guy to the ground. It's kind of fun to watch, but I just know trying to consistently take knockout shots like that isn't a sustainable way to block people in the SEC.
Yeah. Yeah. And, sometimes on this play, like, this guy's got a pretty good read on it, and you may have to lunge and get a glancing blow on a guy to where he goes flying past. I mean, it ends up working well on this one, but you're right. That's where you want to absorb that guy, get your hands on him, and just drive him all the way to the sideline. But, it was effective in this situation, and he's one of the guys that I'm curious to see how he adapts because, the level, like, he's going to see a massive difference in level of opponent on the line of scrimmage, in coverage, out on the perimeter in situations like this. The athlete is going to be a totally different guy, and, can he raise his play to that level quickly?
The last two clips makes me think that maybe when you talk about an H-back tight end, dirty work type of guy that will throw his body around a little bit, maybe he can be that dirty work guy.
Yep.
He's put some of it on tape.
Got a big frame for it.
And I would assume Jerry Schmidt will be able to add a little bit to that frame.
Yep.
Before the season rolls around. So how big of a piece is he going to be for this team in 2025? I have no idea. But the movement's decent, the size is good, and he could get bigger, and he's shown a willingness to, it doesn't look like he's afraid of contact.
Yep. Willing to mix it up a little bit.
It's intriguing. That's all we got. The tight end situation is so interesting for this football team. Please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. If you really like this, you can click those three dots down there. and go ahead and give us a super thanks. But other than that, we'll see you next time here on In the Weeds.